Hello and welcome to Question Time, where I answer one of your questions. So why did I start my YouTube channel? Actually, I started YouTube because I found that there was a need for the kind of cooking that I do. My husband went to the USA and he was working out there, and my kids were here, so I was over here. So we were apart for some time, and he'd want to make Indian food, and I'd have to kind of tell him over the phone, you know, and us Gujaratis, we always estimate, we put a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Even if you watch videos, they're always like, put 1 teaspoon in. So they put 1 teaspoon and then they add a little bit more, or it's just like, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, why would you say 1 teaspoon and then add a little bit more? That's 1 1/4 teaspoons or 1 1/2 teaspoons. So I would try and give exact measurements for what the recipe that I was giving my husband, and it's so hard to do. So I said, okay, I'm gonna have to start writing this stuff down and emailing it to him. So I started my recipe book and I measured everything out. I try it in the UK and then send it over to him in the US, and he'd make it and everything would be fine. So then my son, he moved out when he was at university, and it was the same thing. Like, he'd say, Mom, how do you make ringan batata nasak? Because most kids, when they go to university, decide to go vegetarian, and so he became vegetarian. And Indian food, Gujarati food, is very easy for vegetarians because there are so many dishes that you can make that are vegetarian and are delicious. So I was trying to explain to him how to make these dishes, and I said, you know what, it's so much easier if I just show you. But I couldn't show him because he was there, I was here. So I said, okay, I'm going to start doing YouTube videos on these recipes. So, because there are lots of people like you, so uni students or single men who don't have, you know, a female to cook for them, or girls that want to learn how to cook. Because these days, you know, us young girls, I feel like I'm 21 still, but I'm not. You know, the girls these days, they're out enjoying their lives, which is rightly so. They're not, you know, like with their mums learning how to cook, and that's totally fine. There is no necessity to do that. But when they get married or they go away, like, you know, when I went initially to the US with my husband 2 years after I got married, there were so many things that I didn't learn from my mother-in-law or learn from my mom. And I was kind of like a girl just starting out learning how to cook. And I knew how to cook. Like, I could cook the basic things, but there were things that I never used to make and I wanted to make them. So I said, this is a good niche to have, is to, you know, teach people how to cook. I was actually giving cooking lessons as well, and it's so different. Like, if you look at a recipe in a book and you see somebody making it, they're worlds apart. It is very, very different. So I said, you know, it makes a huge difference watching somebody cook and, you know, pointing out the things that you look for when you're cooking, the textures you feel in your hands when you're cooking, all of these things. You can write it down, but sometimes seeing it makes a huge difference. And so that's why I started to do YouTube channels, because I think there was a real need for it. I see a lot of YouTube channels out there where, number one, they're all in Hindi or Gujarati, and, you know, the youngsters these days, they don't understand it. Number two, they give measurements, but they're totally inaccurate because they always add a little bit more or less. And number three, they go so fast. They don't give you like the instructions that you need. Like, okay, when you do this, this is what you're looking for, or this is how it should be, you know. And I think that's really important. So that's where I'm going, is I'm trying to show in detail my videos so that I can teach you guys as if I was in your home teaching you how to cook. And some of the feedback that I get is just amazing. That it's like having a personal tutor. People have said that, you know, it's like I'm in their kitchen, or that their recipe turned out perfect. And sometimes they say their recipe didn't turn out perfect. And that's understandable, because ingredients are different, and that does make a difference. But I try and do my best to teach everyone out there to cook the way I cook at home. And really the feedback that I get, that really motivates me to you know, continue on doing what I'm doing with YouTube. So that's why I started YouTube, is to help people learn how to cook, and to keep our cuisine going on, like our Gujarati food. I'm starting out with Gujarati food, and there's so many Gujarati dishes, but I also mingle in there other things that I cook for my family and that my family loves, because I think these dishes are dishes that everyone would love if they tried them. And I think cooking at home is just, I think it's a pleasure. It's a real pleasure to do when you taste the fruits of your work. Like, there's not many things that you can do where the result is right there like that and you get a dish. So I think yeah, it's a wonderful thing to do. So you guys motivate me to do YouTube, and my kids do, my family does, and anybody who comments on my YouTube videos, that's why I started YouTube. Do you have a question related to cooking that you want me to answer? Go ahead and put it in the comments below. Until then, happy cooking!